Good afternoon and welcome this afternoon to Primary Teams 365. My name's Henry Penfold and I am Digital Leader and Year 4 Teacher at Cornerstone C of E Primary School. And just a quick housekeeping things. Hopefully you can all hear me and hopefully see me somewhere on your screen. And also important things is you have the raise hand feature, which is the little hand that you'll see on your screen if you have any questions, and we will do our best to answer them. You have the access to mute or unmute. Unfortunately, you don't have that at the moment, but we may allow that certainly later on for questions during our time to try. Please feel free to add your name, country, Twitter handle to the chat and introduce yourselves. And also ensure that you log in to the Microsoft Educator Center and click the sign in. And then you can redeem the code that you will see on the screen. This code was sent out as part of the welcome email as well. So all of the information is there. And I hope you have an enjoyable afternoon. And I shall hand over to my head teacher.
Thank you, Henry. I love it when you introduce me like that. That's very much appreciated. So what Henry and I are hopefully going to do this evening at Primary Teams 365 is share with you the sort of journey that we've been on as a school at Cornerstone over the last 12 months. I think one of the key things that would hopefully reassure anyone who's starting out on their journey or hasn't done much development with this is we only started literally in February 2020, so it is 12 months ago that we started using Teams and OneNote and Forms, and so we've been slowly developing them, training staff with them and getting the children and families used to use them as well. We're really proud that they're very much embedded across the school now, and lots of really great examples, some of which we'll be able to share with you this evening. So really glad that you've joined us. I'm just going to remind everybody, if you are on Twitter, please do use the hashtag PT365 as above our heads as the reminder, because we'd love to hear your comments on there as well as in the chat. The other thing, and apologies if this is something you regularly say to any of your children or families at school, but if you are struggling with sound or if you are struggling to see something, it is worth logging out and logging back in again. I had to do it myself 10 minutes ago, just after Henry and I had started the meeting, which would have been a bit embarrassing if I'd not been able to get back in, but it was okay. I'll hand you back to Henry now. Henry, you're muted.
There we go. It all happens to all of us. So ensure that you have a tab that is open with the Microsoft Educator community and also logged into your Office 365 account, because during the time to try sections, there will be a chance to try all of the different elements that we are going to be sharing for you and a chance to answer questions during this time.
Oh, look at that. I had myself muted as well. We've both done it once this afternoon. If you feel like keeping a tally to see who embarrasses themselves more this afternoon, please feel free. So the plan this afternoon is we're going to talk to you about these 4 Microsoft apps. Going from left to right, you've got Microsoft Teams, you've got OneNote, you've got Forms, and you've got Sway. And we're going to look at Teams and OneNote in the first half, have a quick 5-minute break, and then Forms and Sway in the second half. For each app, what we're going to do is I'm going to share a presentation, giving you some of the basic features so that if you haven't used it before, hopefully that will help. I'm also going to share a couple of examples of how we've used it, both as a staff and also with the children. I'm then going to hand over to Henry, who's going to do a demonstration and just talk you through some bits and give you hopefully some ideas that you might want to do in the T2T, which is the time to try. What we'll also do during the time to try section for each of the apps is look at the questions that are in the chat box and try our best to answer all of them. Key thing though is, as with always with these events, there's never enough time to answer all the questions, but please remember you have got our Twitter handles and you have got our email addresses. So if we don't answer your question this evening because we run out of time, please do get in contact with us afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to start with a presentation about Microsoft Teams, and in particular looking at how we've used it as a staff. It is really hard to undersell, or oversell rather, the value of Microsoft Teams. It's really fabulous in terms of the way it facilitates collaboration and communication between teachers and pupils. So for example, just today, I've been having a conversation on Teams with a group of 6 of our Year 6 pupils and the Year 6 teacher, and we're planning an assembly, a collective worship for next week. And so we've actually been having that conversation, setting up meetings and sharing documents, all within a group chat on Teams, which has been brilliant because all the children are at home. In fact, the Year 6 teacher is working from home today. It's also really great because actually as teachers, as staff, we can collaborate, we can converse, we can share with each other. What we've found as a school is some of our staff perhaps found it tricky logging on to their emails all the time and maybe only check them perhaps once a fortnight. Whereas with Teams, actually our staff have got it as an app on their phone, and so they're able to have those conversations, get those messages to each other so much quicker. And therefore it's really become this one-stop hub for us. So we've got all our files, all our documents, all our planning, resources, lessons, conversations. The list could go on, but it's all in this one-stop hub. So again, for our staff, it's been really beneficial because they know I go into Teams, everything I need is there and is searchable if I can't find it straight away. Okay, so if you haven't used Teams before, what I'm going to do, because it can look a bit overwhelming when you first see it. So what I'm going to do is just explain to you, there's 3 main sections. The section on the left here, this column, that is called the Me space. And what you have is in the far left, you've got the app bar. Apologies if my picture is getting in the way of it. And then also within the Me space, you have which team you're in. So at the moment, you're seeing Cornerstone Training Team, and that's the main team. Underneath it, it's got a series of channels, which are like subsections within your team. But what I'm going to talk about is the icons here. So the activity bell at the top, basically, if that's got a number next to it, that means that there's a couple of announcements that you need to go and look at. So it's really useful to look at that first. If there's something important, that's the place to go. Then you've got the chat box. So you can have individual conversations, you can have group conversations, and as well as having it as a quick sort of instant messaging sort of service, you can also do audio chats and you can do video chats. So nowadays, I've become even lazier as a head teacher. If I want to talk to Henry and he's at the other end of the school, I don't bother walking out my office. I just click on chat and phone him up. And depending whether he wants to talk to me, he either picks up or doesn't. You've then got the Teams icon. So you may belong to more than one team. And if you click on that, it will show you all the teams you belong to. Assignments we'll talk about when we're looking at the class team, because that's with your class. Calendar is really useful because it shows you all the meetings that you're scheduled to have in Teams. So all of those phone calls, all of those video calls. At the bottom, you've got a whole range of other apps, both Microsoft apps and third-party apps that you can add in. And always helpful, there's a help there. Lots of really useful videos that can support you with hopefully any questions you've got. So that was the Me space over on the left. And we're now going to look at this section here that's in the yellow box called the We space. And this is the bit where actually you're collaborating more as a team. So these are tabs across the top that everybody in your team can access. So the first one there that I'm pointing to is posts. And that's actually what's shown on this screen. So again, if you think about your staff notice board in your staff room, that's where you'd normally write something up to make sure that everybody saw it. Of course, the challenge at the moment is not all staff are in. Maybe the staff room is only allowed a few people in, so not everyone else is able to go in there. So actually, this works like a digital staff room notice board. So you can put conversations up there, you can put an announcement. So this one with a big heading, that's an announcement to make sure people can see it. And then people are able to reply to it, either with questions or comments or suggestions. So it's very interactive, but it also means that everyone can see it immediately. Next along, you've got files. Files are really useful. I mean, it will very much replicate probably anything that you work on at the moment on your system, whether on the system or in the cloud. Essentially, you can set up as many files as you want. You can set them up in all sorts of different channels, and you're able to put in Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint documents, PDFs, all of that can go there. So again, for us as a staff, everything is now within Teams. Even our office staff have moved over to Teams and they've willingly put everything in there. Next along is the staff notebook. There are 3 types of notebook in there. First of all, there's the content library, which, as its name would suggest, provides a lot of content, and it's there to be read, but not to be edited. So if you've perhaps got policies or you've got timetables that you don't want people messing around with, you can put them in the content library. All staff then have an individual notebook. Only they and the owners of the team, in our case it's Henry and myself, can see an individual staff member's notebook. So some of our staff, for example, are using it for their performance management notes or for extra training notes, but it's somewhere where they can keep their notes securely. And then possibly the most useful as a staff team is the collaboration space. And again, we will share examples of these later on. The collaboration space is somewhere where all staff who are in the team can add to it, can edit, and the notebooks are really fantastic because you can not just type in text, but you can put in pictures, you can put in videos, you can put in links, all sorts of different things you can put in there, which then makes it, again, really interactive and multimedia. What's also great about the WeSpace Crosstop is you can then add extra tabs. So, for example, we've added the Microsoft Educator Center as a tab so that our staff can go to it directly from within Teams without having to leave it. We use CPOMs for our safeguarding system. So again, on our school one, we've got a CPOMs tab there. So again, staff, if they're in Teams and think, I need to put that on CPOMs, can go directly there. So that's the WeSpace that you share with everybody else, and that's the Me space on the left. The final section, oh, I haven't got to that bit yet. Some examples of the WeSpace. On the left, what you've got here is an example of a post, and this is from our actual staff team. So this was a post that I shared back in November where we'd created a mini CPD video sharing some key points about Excel. And so we popped it on there. We tagged everyone in by typing @general, so everyone gets notified that that post is there. Really useful way of sharing training when not everyone's in the building. The middle picture is possibly less interesting because it looks very similar. This is just an example of files. So within our teaching and learning channel, we've got various files like assessment, curriculum, data, planning, so on and so forth. Far more exciting, I think, is this example on the right. Forgive us that it's very, very busy. We're not expecting you to read absolutely everything there, but this is an example of the collaboration space in the staff notebook. So you can see it's staff notebook there. You've got everybody's names down here, or myself and Henry, and then you've got this collaboration space. And we've got, for example, staff meeting notes, insets, CPD training. The one that I've opened here, because it seemed sensible for today, we've got a section called Microsoft Training, and then we've got loads of pages here, all within that section of Microsoft Training. And because we're talking about Teams at the moment, we've chosen the team ones there. And you can see we've got text, we've got links, we've got a video, all of that there. The bonus is with the OneNote, you can add as many sections as you want and as many pages as you want within each section. So really, really open to being able to meet all the needs that you've got as a staff team. Okay, the third section then is called the canvas. So this is the section, again, you can see here inside the yellow rectangle. And this is essentially showing whatever you've selected. So here I've selected, I'm in the Cornerstone training team, and in the Me space, I've selected the general channel. And then in the We space across the top, I've selected the posts. And so this canvas is showing me the posts within the general channel. If I was to choose a different channel, if I was to choose, say, chat, or I was to go to files or staff notebook, then what's in the canvas would change. Now, I hope that sort of was a useful and hopefully not too rushed introduction to some of the key features. Please don't worry if perhaps some of it passed you by or I went a little bit fast, because I'm going to hand over now to Henry, who's going to do a demonstration.
Super, thank you very much, Tim. And as you can see, you'll see the Microsoft Teams app on my computer, and you'll see all the different teams that I am part of. And to start off with, you can obviously access Microsoft Teams through web browser, also through the app. And as you can see, you get more features through the app, but it is really easy to create a team. So as you can see on the top right-hand corner here, you can join and create a team. If you have you can either add people's emails to a team, or some people can share a join code which you can join. So if I want to create my own team, you create your own team and you have a number of options that you are given. For obviously a class, you would set up a class team. For obviously a staff, as a staff group, you would set up staff. And there are bonuses to setting up each of these. Obviously, within a class team, you can set assignments, whereas within a staff team, you don't necessarily need to set assignments for staff. And once you click on it, it will give you the option to name it and describe it, and it will create you all the different areas that you need that Tim showed you through the previous part of the presentation. So to show you, to go in depth into a team, we have our Cornerstone class training team, which we use as a demo. And as you can see, we have got all of the different areas that Tim explained at the top that you can easily add to. So as he said, we use the CPOMs as our safeguarding, and you can add web links, you can add documents. This term, we've been doing some work on inspirational digital Cornerstone. We had a Word document at the top. So once they click staff, any member of staff clicks the link at the top, they can access the Word document and edit it live. It doesn't matter how many, they can all edit and see the different things that have been edited. So key things that you can obviously do, you can set up a new conversation, whether it's an announcement. You have the option to style and add in elements to your conversation. So you can do it as like Tim has done here. He's done an announcement, so you can change it to an announcement here, or you can change it so it doesn't necessarily have a massive border at the top, and you just do it as a conversation. And it gives you lots of elements that you can bold, highlight it, underline it. Maybe you want to make something really clear to staff, and you can include hyperlinks as well as including YouTube videos that you saw with that Excel demonstration. So that's how you create an assignment. When you want to upload a file or something, you have the files area, and you can easily click and drag a file from your computer onto Teams, or you can upload a file or a folder depending on which you prefer. Whether it's quite a lot of files, it may be that you use upload a folder, or you can start from scratch and you can upload start a Word document, Excel, PowerPoint, and that will literally start straight away, as you will see and I can create the name and it will create the file in this folder here. If I wanted to create it in the training docs, then I would go into the training docs and then create the new file there. So very easy and very simplistic, that then the people that are part of that team can easily see and edit. As you can see, it updates you as to who has modified the document, and constantly keeps you up to date with that. You can, when we have the staff notebook, you will see that we have all of the different areas once it has loaded for the staff, plus the collaboration space. So the collaboration space, as Tim explained, is a place where all of the staff can collaborate in one area. So as you can see here, we have the collaboration space. This is where all of the staff collaborate. In the staff content, in the content library, that is only for owners. So currently, as Tim and I are owners of this team, we are the only ones that can access that. And we can use that. We can edit it, but other people cannot edit it, the other teaching staff. And then as being owners, we can see the other different notebooks that people have got as part of it. And you can see with the collaboration space, you can write anywhere that you want on the screen and collaborate over lots of different documents. Finally, really easily, you can schedule a meeting. So you can schedule a meeting in any one of these channels. So for example, if you wanted a meeting in here, we can start a new conversation, or we can create a meeting and schedule a meeting. This will give you a number of different options. So we can either invite the different attendees that we would like as part of it, or we can post it, and if it was for all staff, we can make it so if I wanted to post it for all, we've had lots of these at school recently with COVID briefings. And I can post this, and once I send it, you will see that this will appear on the canvas, and it has invited everyone as part of the team to the call, which has been really useful to keep in touch, as particularly I can imagine Tim has very much appreciated that element with everything to do with the coronavirus. So they are the main key elements that you can do, and there is a huge amount, and that one-stop hub and that accessibility makes it really easy. So it's your chance to have a go and time to try. So you may want to access Teams via web browser, or if you have the app already installed, you can have a go and try and have a go at the different things, whether it's setting up a team, whether it's, if you already have a Teams, posting an announcement, uploading a new document. We shall give you a few minutes to have a go at that. Any questions at all, please post them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them.
Can I also just add, if for any reason you can't access the chat, do feel free to raise your digital hand and we can unmute you and take your question that way if you want.
A question that I can just see in the chat: how effective do you find the app on non-Microsoft devices? Personally, I don't have any experience of using it on non-Microsoft devices. I would personally use it through the web browser if we're thinking of something like a Chromebook. I know that you can use it through Apple Store, and you can use it on a Mac. So there is, you can use it across a varied amount of devices. I don't personally have any experience of that. And just replying to your question, Neil, also, this is something that we did set up actually. So just over a year ago, when we went to the Bet Show, we actually set up this team on the way back on a train journey from London Waterloo. And I think it gave us more control, because then we could move the files that we wanted to move over. And in particular, we wanted the factor of not having everything that we had on our shared area onto Teams. We didn't want it to be somewhere where not staff would access all of the files that we needed to. And actually, by having that control, we know that the areas that we need accessible are really clear.
Also, just to add to Henry's point there, when we were sat on the train coming back from London, we set it up with just the general channel, and we only put in a few folders, the ones we thought staff would need most. So one of the things we'd advise, if your staff aren't using it, is to start small, get them used to finding their way around a few folders, get them used to some of the functionality before you start trying to then put everything that's perhaps on your server onto Teams.
And just a further question from Rick. The factor of using Teams on your personal device, so I have Teams on my mobile, I think actually enhance that communication between staff. So the factor that support staff sometimes may not have access to a laptop all day, the factor of having the app on their phone made it really accessible, and drove communication and actually enhanced that communication between staff.
Question just coming about, would you recommend admin rights to all staff? So the way that we've set it up is the main staff team, Henry and I are the owners, which means that we are the ones who have the control over how to set all that up. We're the ones who can add people and remove people. But in terms of the class teams, what we've done is made sure that the class teachers, Henry and myself, are all owners of that. To be honest, we've also made sure that, particularly at the moment with remote learning, the support staff are members if they're in that same bubble, in that same class, because it allows all of those members of staff to have that capability of controlling the different functionality and starting and stopping various things that we might or might not want the children to do. There's also an interesting question there about sending a link to someone who's not part of the staff, i.e. the speech and language team. I'm assuming you're talking there, Nina, about someone who's an external consultant who comes in. Again, we've had some experience of this in that we set up a separate team when we were doing some work because we've got a new build coming. And so myself, Henry, and 3 other people who were external from our school were all within that team. In terms of the main staff team, we don't have anyone external having access to that, because then they would have access to everything that's in there, and obviously there's some confidential information. So it might be you just have to set up a separate team, but you can have as many teams as you want. And when Henry was showing how to create a team, as well as having a staff team, you can also have a PLC, a professional learning community team, which is generally designed for that type of situation where you've got people from different schools. Question there about setting up sections in a notebook. You should have at the bottom, there should be an option to add a section and to add a page. Again, sometimes it can depend whether you're on the web or whether you're on the app. With OneNote, again, we would recommend downloading the app. It's free to download on any device, and it's definitely got more capability if you're using the app. So for example, on the web, you can't embed an online video, whereas on the app you can. So app is generally the best for everything. quite a common question we get asked from James there about, do you know how to ensure that people join as attendees and not presenters? Absolutely. So when you schedule a meeting, you put in all the information you want, you invite who you want to attend, you can then send that link out, and that meeting will appear on your Teams calendar. If you then go back into it, you can go up to the top and there's something called meeting options. And in meeting options, you can set, for example, like we've set for this Teams meeting, we set that Henry and I are the only two who are allowed to come in without waiting in the lobby. We're the only two who are allowed to unmute themselves. Apologies for that. It's not that we like the sound of our own voice, but just 300 people talking at the same time might have been tricky. So in terms of that, making sure that certain people are attenders and certain people are presenters, that capability, that control of that is there within the meeting options. But you set the meeting up first, then go back into it and click on the meeting options. Okay, if you are still time to trying and just having a little play around, and we hope you're finding it useful because it's always worth trying these things the moment you've seen something. If we can just give you a sort of 2-3 minute warning, because then we're going to carry on with the next section. Thank you everybody who's busy tweeting, very much appreciated. Trying to keep an eye on that and the chat. Henry thought I had no chance of doing it, but I'm just doing both of them quite badly at the moment, Henry.
Just to show the latest question that was in, which was, when posting an announcement, I am unable to open the conversation and there's no option to change this. So the way in which you do it is click new conversation, which I've been muted because I'm on the Cornerstone class team. I'll go back to it because I was preparing for the next part. So you click new conversation and then click on the A, and then you click on this tab here, which gives you the option to make an announcement. So they are the steps in which, and as an admin to the team, you should be able to do it. No problem at all. Pleasure. As I just had a thank you.
Just got one more question there. Jay Wilmore asking about, if the class teachers set up the meeting, how can I, a TA, allow children to join the lesson without the teacher having to stop the lesson? So again, this is in with the meeting options. So once you've set up the meeting, if you go into the meeting options, you can be made a presenter. You can make specific people presenters, and then they will have the right to let people in through the lobby, mute people, etc., etc. Apologies, Miss Bailey's got her hand up. Sorry that I didn't see that earlier. If you want to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, yes. When I've gone in to set it up and I'm doing a lesson on Teams and I've got myself as the presenter and no one else can go in, some child's able to take control of my screen and move it forwards and backwards and shut it down. And I've been in all the options and I just don't know what's happening. I've got other people to look at it as well.
Are you sharing a PowerPoint at that point?
Yes.
And if you're sharing it in the way at the moment, when you share, if you go to the share option on the right, when the PowerPoint comes up, there'll be a little icon near the top. If you click on the icon, there'll be a line that goes through it, and that will stop them being able to control your presentation.
They're still able to take control.
Ooh. In which case, I'm definitely handing that over to the expert. Henry, any thoughts on that one?
Well, they were the things that I was going to suggest. The only other way I would suggest is instead of sharing the PowerPoint, sharing your screen, and ensure that obviously you're the presenter and that no others. So in the meeting options, it has the option to allow or to present. Make sure obviously that is unticked, because then that will give all of the children more rights. If not, please feel free to send me a screenshot or anything. I love a good challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think what we're going to do then, because we're aware of time, is we are going to move on. So what we're going to do is we're still going to be thinking about Teams and OneNote. So again, if you've still got some questions about that, hopefully maybe some of them will be answered in this next section. But what we're going to do is focus on, rather than how we use it with staff, how we've been using it with our children and our classes. And again, just a reminder, I said that we moved on to Teams back in February with our staff. However, we didn't start using it with the children until June in its full capacity. All the classes were doing a weekly Teams call in June and July, but Henry, who was teaching Year 6 last year, trialled it out with his Year 6 class, because we figured if it all went badly wrong, they were leaving anyway and we could learn from it. Unfortunately, it didn't go badly wrong. So what we've done this year is we actually trained our Year 4, 5 and 6 classes up in using Teams and OneNote in September, so that it meant if we had to go into remote learning, we'd be able to sort of seamlessly transition, but we also used it for home learning during the autumn term. So the bonus is with this section is it's exactly the same layout in a class team as it is in the staff team. So what you're looking at here at the moment is our class training team, and we're looking at posts. And as Henry has just shared, you can click on New Conversation, and you can either add a conversation or, as I've done here, welcome to the class training team. We tend to find announcements are quite useful if you're reminding the children they need to do their work and to get their assignments back to you. Those are the ones you generally want to have nice and big and bold. So that's the posts section, and again, that's in the WE space, one of the tabs across the top. Here's a couple of examples of posts. So the one on the left was actually from a member of staff, but on behalf of the Year 4 team. And this is an example, we'll come back to you later when we look at forms. So this was back in September. Year 4 were doing some science. It's just disappeared, Mr. P. I will still talk about it while it's coming back up. So the Year 4 class were learning some science. They were looking at teeth. And what they did was they created, thank Henry, they created a form which they then sent through Teams to the Year 5 and 6 classes and asked them to complete. So again, at a time when the classes had to stay as a bubble, they couldn't go and talk to those children, but actually technology removed that barrier. So that was a post in the Year 5 and the Year 6 class teams. And then on the right, you've got an example of a post here from the Year 6 teacher. Again, this is back, I think, October half term, saying, well done, you've worked really hard over half term. There isn't any work over this half term, but as always, please do keep enjoying your reading, because that's always worthwhile. So just a couple of examples of how we've used posts in class teams there. Next, we've got files. So again, the key thing here is that you do have slight more elements of control. So what's different about the files in a class team is this class materials folder. It's a read-only folder. So if you've got documents that you want the children to read or to watch or to be able to access, but you don't want them changing them and editing them, you can put it in the class materials folder. If there are things that you want them to edit or you don't mind them editing, you can then put them in other folders. Most of what we've done so far has been in with class materials, but it's really easy. Up here where it says new, you can create new folders, you can create new documents, you can upload folders that you've already got elsewhere. You can also, if you've got folders here, download them. So really versatile, but also having that element of control with the class materials. So again, here's a couple of examples. Again, these are both from autumn, and you'll see both of them in the thread. It's general and then it's class materials. General, class materials. So these are ones which the children can access but can't change. Both of these are from our Year 6 class. The example you can see on the left, I'm sure everyone will have had their own way of doing this, is our self-isolation learning for Autumn 1 in English. So again, during that period in autumn term, where sometimes individuals were having to self-isolate, what we did was we uploaded all the work we needed within our teams. And therefore, the children were able to easily access it because we trained them on it. What you've then got on the right-hand side, something that we learned to do during the first lockdown was create videos using recorded PowerPoint. And what we've done, even though we were back in school in the autumn term, what staff did was they created a short video each week called on-demand learning videos. It was basically some of the key parts of the English and maths learning from that week put into a recorded PowerPoint, saved as a video file, and then uploaded. So again, the bonus here is if you've got a child self-isolating, or you've got a child who's perhaps struggled with some learning that week, you can say, go and have a look at the on-demand learning video, go and watch it again. And again, because it's in Teams, because it's in the cloud, and because it's a video file, this can be watched on anything. So it can be watched on a phone, it can be watched on a tablet, or on a laptop or desktop. Oh, I think I double clicked there, Mr. P. Any chance you can move me back? Thank you. I'll stop fiddling and just let the expert do it. So the next section is then we've got posts, we've got files that we've just talked about, and then we've got the class notebook. And just like with the staff, you've got some different choices. So you've got a student notebook. So this is one that your individual children will be able to access their own one, but you as a teacher or any other member of staff who's an owner of the team will be able to also access. You've got a content library, which is the read-only space. So again, if you've got things that you want them to read, want them to be able to access but not change, you pop it there. And then you've got the collaboration space, which again can be really, really powerful if you're wanting the children to collaborate, perhaps in groups or as a whole class, and they can add to that. The other notebook you have in a class notebook is the teacher notebook. So this is one that nobody but the teacher can see. And often it's quite useful if you're creating a notebook page that you want for a future assignment, but you don't want the children to see it yet, creating it in the teacher only space can be quite helpful. So another couple of examples, because we felt it was worth sharing examples with you. So the one on the left, this is our Year 6 class, and this was actually some work they did in school. So again, a key thing for us with Teams and OneNote is it's supporting and enhancing our learning in class as well as when the children are having to learn remotely. So the Year 6s were doing a learning quest all about rivers, and this is back in September, and this Year 6 child was comparing the River Hamble. They were given a choice of another river to compare it to, and they chose the River Nile. And so within 3 or 4 weeks of learning how to use Teams and OneNote, they've been able to use it to create this table and put all that information in there. So that's an individual child's notebook. But on the right, you've got an example of a collaboration space notebook. Now, I will be honest, it didn't look this tidy when the children first typed it in. I have tidied it up a little bit, so it's slightly more presentable. But our Year 5 class were supposed to be going on a residential, but in the end, it ended up being 2 activity days towards the end of September. And so what we did was, rather than sitting in the classroom and having just one child ask a question and everyone else sitting and listening, the children were in pairs on laptops, and they were adding questions to this OneNote page. And then Mrs. Phippen and I were desperately trying to keep up and answer them all. Yes, we did have to answer some of them after the lesson. But again, the bonus is because it was on Teams, because the children were able to access Teams outside of school, if their parents then went, oh, well, what time do we need to get there? Or you know, are you doing archery or not? The child could say, I don't think we are, but actually, let's have a look. So again, one of the bonuses with Teams and OneNote is this learning always and always. You can do it anywhere on any device at any time, which is fabulous. Once you've created a notebook page, there's two ways of distributing that, or two main ways of distributing that to your class. You can either do it directly or through setting an assignment. So this is how to do it directly. First of all, create the page, either in the teacher only or in the content library. And then you go to the class notebook, but it's this one here next to help, not the tab at the top. So when you click on this class notebook, this window here then appears. And as you can see, you've got distribute page. So you can either distribute it to the whole class, to individuals, or to a group within your class. And as I found out with my wife the other day when we made a mistake with one of her secondary school classes, if you've sent it by mistake, you can then delete that distribution. Once you've decided who you're distributing it to, it will then let you decide where in the student's notebook you're going to send that note to. So the bonus is you create something once and then you just press a button and it pings out to all the children's notebooks. So the other way of doing it is setting assignments. Assignments is another tab across the top of the WeSpace. So just to recap, we've got the posts, the files, the notebook, and then we've got assignments. So if you want to create an assignment, you click there, you add your title, you can add some instructions to the children, you can add your resource. So this might be where you click on that and add a OneNote page. The OneNote page is then linked to that assignment. So when the children get the assignment, the notebook page opens up automatically for them to add to. You can add points. You can also add a rubric. The Americans would call it a rubric. We perhaps in the UK would be more likely to call it a success criteria. The bonus with that is if you type it out, maybe 3 or 4 boxes, being you're excellent, you're good, or maybe you need to have another go at this, you might have a whole chunk of feedback there. And by just clicking on it, it will add that feedback automatically to each individual child's. You can then assign it to a particular team. You can either assign it to all students or groups or individuals, decide when it's due back, and really usefully, you can post it to the general channel as well. So again, the children will get that big post come up saying, here's your assignment for today, here's the link, click on that, and it will take you straight to it. If it's one you're working on but you don't want to send yet, you can just save it, and if it's ready to go, you can click assign. So here's a couple of examples. The one on the left is Year 6, the one on the right is Year 5. Both of these are from the autumn term. So this was not when we were remote learning. The children were all in school, but we were using it for home learning. So the example on the left, you can see that the child has, yes, typed in some of their responses, but you can also see they've done some work on paper and then just uploaded it as a photo. As I said earlier, the bonus with OneNote is you can type, you can ink, you can add pictures, you can add video files, you can add links, all sorts of things. So this child then did this lovely bit of creative work with spelling and said, well, actually, I've done it on paper. I'm just going to add that as a photo. You can see the teacher has, we use Great Green and Think Pink here. So they've added the marking in, but the teacher's also been able to give feedback at the side here. One of the other bonuses, if you want to, you can actually add audio feedback. So perhaps if you've got a child who's struggling with something, maybe struggling with reading lots, they can do that. Another bonus that we haven't mentioned, and we won't go into detail, but there is something amazing built into OneNote called Immersive Reader, which will read information for the children. They also, a lot of our children particularly like this little icon here, the microphone, because you can actually dictate into it. So again, in Notebook, they don't have to type everything. The example in Year 5 here, again, very similar one. As you can see, it's in their home learning section. Because we were just doing it as a weekly, there was a weekly page. And as you can see, they've typed things in and the teacher has given the feedback. Again, one of the real bonuses that we found during lockdown this term is that when the children hand the assignment in, the fact that you're able to give them feedback almost instantaneously, depending on what your marking workload is at the time, has been really great in terms of keeping up those conversations about the learning. We've obviously also used Teams for some live lessons. You may recognise these two people in the picture on the left. This was Henry teaching his Year 4 class and using a PowerPoint there that he was sharing to do some maths with them. Again, as you can see, that was what was happening during this term lockdown. The interesting thing about the photo on the right, this is our Year 6 class, but this was actually the first day of this half term, and our Year 6 teacher actually was unable to be in on that day. So she spent the day teaching her class from home. So actually all the children were in. There was another member of staff in the room supervising, but actually the teacher taught the class for the day from Teams. Obviously we gave them screen breaks at particular points, but it was really, really effective, worked very well. And at that point, you'll be pleased to know, I'm going to stop talking and hand over to Henry to do a demo.
Thank you very much indeed, Tim. So this is our Cornerstone class training team. So as you can tell, a very similar layout. So we have a similar number of tabs across the top, but obviously we have a few additional ones, the class notebook instead of the staff, and assignments. And also if I opened up the one more, it would be grades. Just like before, we can add in more tabs if we want to, whether it's a key website that we want the children to access. So if we start off with the class notebook, each of the children have their own particular notebook, which the best way of describing it is they have their each individual exercise book. So as you can see here, we have a range of different people. We have the collaboration space, which is obviously where anyone can access and anyone can edit. We have the content library. The content library is obviously where only teachers can edit. It is locked, and also the teacher only space is where teachers can only edit and also teachers can only view. So the only spaces that if we were to log in as a child, they would see is the collaboration space, content library, and then just their name below. So we then have, if we click on one of these pupils, you will see then these are almost like their separate workbooks or their separate books. So we have each of these different areas, and we can then, if we had an item in the content library, so we have a geography assignment here, which we have a week beginning some thing about rivers. So as Tim shared, if we click on the class notebook at the top here, we can distribute that page to all of the people. We can distribute to particular children, depending if it's differentiated, and we can do individual distribution as well. And if we do make a mistake, we can delete that page, which I've done on many occasions. And we can also add a new section. And also under this tab, we can manage the notebooks. So as you can see here, we've got a list of a number of different notebooks, each individual. And I can manage, and I may want to change it that across everyone's notebook, they don't have an English section. I've gone back to the old style and I want to call it literacy. So I can click on manage notebooks and I can change this notebook so that everyone's English will change to literacy. You can obviously, as Tim explained, embed lots of different things, videos, pictures, and it's the ease in which you can write anywhere. You know, so if, for example, I wanted to write something over here, I can then type here, and I can type something that I wanted to type. The well-known classic hello as a test version. So we have there the freedom of being able to, and then I can move it to the particular place that I want to. And that's a really powerful thing because obviously it gives you a freedom when you are editing. So then under the assignments tab, as Tim shared, we have our drafts, which is things that we haven't necessarily assigned yet. but we have lots of options. We can assign a quiz. We can also assign an assignment. A quiz is linked to forms, which is something that we're going to discuss about later, but we can give it a title. Something really useful is by giving it categories. So then when we have quite a few assignments, so for example, like we're in lockdown, I have an assignment a day. By having the categories, I can sort out, and particularly for some children that I send out different assignments, I can sort them into a certain category. When we have the resources, we can add in the class notebook resources. So for example, I create a worksheet or I create a task that they can do, and it's in the teacher only section. If I click on the section that I would like this, and I attach it, it then gives me the option that I can choose which part of their notebook that it goes to. So I really fancy that this one goes to the English. So once this assignment is set, that particular page, distribution demo, which sounds a fascinating worksheet, is going to go to the English part in their notebook. I can then add other resources as well. So if I feel that actually, there's actually a really useful link, they're going to use the BBC website a lot to have a look at that news that's the same every day. And so I'm going to include the BBC website and I'm going to attach that. So then that gives them the option and they can access that resource as well. And then once they see this option, and if I assign it to, we then, if we give it a title, today's work, and I assign it, a question that we had was, why will you see it? So as you can see here, I've then gone in and clicked on the assignment. So I've assigned the assignment and I've clicked on it, and you will see in a second, hopefully the names will appear. So we have the two assignments, and you can see at the moment it says not handed in. As soon as either one of these people clicks on it, you will see a viewed. So you can see that they have viewed the assignment. And then once they have handed it in, this will change to handed in. So I can then click on this and see the work that they have done. So it shows me the OneNote and it shows me the picture. It shows me all their work they have done. I can enter in some feedback. Fantastic work, great work, whatever I add in. I can then draw on top of it. I can insert quite a funky, which I like to do for my children, is add in a sticker. Particularly one of my favorites is the pepper that I like to add in. So I can add that in and give straight away feedback and return it to the children. They get an instant notification once it's returned. Just to show you on the other side, when the students see it like this, when they see their assignment. So they have the title of the assignment, they have any instructions that are needed to be included. Sometimes I don't necessarily include instructions because I put all my instructions in the student work. And there are the reference materials, and it has whether there's any points to it as well. And straight away, then it's always good that when you see this number increasing and this number decreasing, because you realize that you've got less to mark at the end. So that's particularly with assignments. Obviously, there was a question regarding class calls that I had. There is something within Teams. So when you get to manage your team, you can add the people that you would like into your team. And as you can see, these three people are the owners in the team, so they have control. But this magic button here, under mute students, you are able to mute the ones that aren't necessarily ones that aren't possibly the annoying ones, possibly the ones that post lots of times. Once you click mute, it means that any class call that you have within your team or any announcement that you make, they are not able to comment on. And we can click mute on that student. You can also, another question that I had, if you don't create the class call within the team, you are then able to have the control of controlling when you have the chat open, whether it's before, during, after the meeting. You can have it on or off or just during the meeting, which actually my class call isn't actually as part of our team, but I share the link that they can join just like we did today. And I often turn the chat to during, so then it will only activate during the meeting. So they are the particular key things with your class team. Obviously, you can add channels. I know there's lots of people that possibly on Twitter and things that use things like a playground channel or a questions channel. So then actually the general channel doesn't come clogged up. One question as well that we had linked, which I remember from that you can control whether children can talk or whether they can reply to messages. So you have member permissions, but also you have permissions within the channel. So when I clicked on the three dots are the magic to everything. I can manage the channel. And as you can see here, anyone can post messages. Anyone can post, show an alert that posting will notify everyone, or only owners can post messages. So at the moment, myself, Tim and the other teacher can only post messages in this team where the children cannot post. They can like, they can emoji with the different comments, but they cannot do anything. As you can see, replies are disabled. So this is your chance to ask any questions or your time to try.
Henry, there was a question, I'm just trying to find it quite a way back, from Leslia. She asked, can you copy and paste a comment when you make when you're marking assignments? And I wasn't able to answer that one.
Good question. So you can. So for example, on a OneNote page, if I have possibly a generic comment or I want to share something in particular, I would then copy and paste that, and you can copy the text. I can certainly show you. In fact, let me just drag it back on the screen. So for example, if we were in the class notebook and I then open up someone's bit of work, or if I copy and paste this to begin with. So my well-known feedback, while students can see only their own. And so I've just copied that by using CTRL and C. And then I shall go to this child's notebook, and literally I can just click where I want it. So she's done loads of work here, as you can see, and I can paste it here. So I can really easily do that. That's also for the assignments as well, really nicely. So similarly with the assignments, for quite a lot of the assignments, I've been receiving feedback. So as you can see, this teacher has been reviewed her assignment already. So she's probably at home thinking, why has Mr. P and TC set us an assignment? So we have here her feedback, and I can just copy and paste that assignment, and then I can return it to the two children. Often at the moment, I may put a comment as see the feedback in the OneNote, and then I can copy and paste that and paste it into here, and then I can return both of those assignments.
Thank you, Henry. Really good point from Mrs. Brown and Pickard. She said, in OneNote teacher section, I have a section where I save some of the feedback comments, Bitmojis and other things so that I can copy and paste. So great idea to have that saved in a OneNote page there to be used whenever you need it. Thank you for sharing that tip. couple of people have asked about the recordings. Our plan is that when we have finished both session today and tomorrow, we're going to upload the recordings onto our YouTube channel so that they are there for everybody to be able to access.
We have hit the midway. So this is your chance to grab a drink, grab a snack or anything. We're going to take a 5-minute break. In the meantime, I'm just going to paste in the chat just some key things. One of them is a feedback form that we would be very grateful. In fact, Tim's already posted it. He's too quick for me. We would be grateful for you to fill in. And also there is also, which Tim may get to me before me, is a Wakelet, which is another great resource of all of the different things that we have spoken about today, and takeaway resource that you can use with your staff. The question regarding adding stickers to feedback in assignments without using the notebook. The way in which I would give feedback if I wasn't using the notebook would use emojis. So often with feedback with an assignment, I will use emojis as I typed in see feedback on OneNote. The best shortcut for that is by using the Windows key, the one that looks like 4 windows, and full stop. This will bring up lots of different emojis and you can type and search them. And that's a way. You unfortunately can't use the stickers in the assignment feedback. It has to be in OneNote. And regarding the question, the factor of the ping, ping, and all the notifications, so under the class team, you will have the option that you can choose the notifications that you have. And just double check. So when you open the class team, under general and the 3 dots, you have channel notifications, which then you can choose what notifications that you receive. You can block individuals using the chat facility. So if it was factor of the private chat, you can set that all children or particular sets of children cannot. If you wanted it that was particularly within just your channel that they or the team that you had, you can use the mute, which I shared under the 3 dots. Everything is pretty much under 3 dots, the magic panel. Yes, there is a way of attaching voice recordings to feedback for children. So if you open the OneNote in the class OneNote, if I actually just show it to you. So when I have the class OneNote open, I've actually been doing this quite a lot with my children because it saves a lot of time. I then go to the particular section that I want. So I really want to give some feedback to this child. And I click on the section. And then once you click on it, you then have insert and you have audio. This means that you are able, and it will record as soon as I was to click audio, and it saves it as a file. In short, it is synced, and then that gives feedback.
Okay, we hope you've managed to grab a drink, grab a snack, visit any small rooms that you needed to, and hopefully you're now back. So we're going to start our second half. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be looking at Forms and Sway in this second half, both of which are free apps within the Office 365 suite. Really powerful, and the fact that they're free as a head teacher really makes me happy. So I'm going to do my presentation again. Thank you, Henry. So we're going to look at Forms first. And why use Forms? Well, Forms is great because you can create surveys and tests really, really quickly and easily. You can also create forms as quizzes, which means it's auto-marked. So what we found is that the days when teachers are in year 4, 5 and 6, often the assignment is a forms quiz, because then it cuts down on their marking, because it will mark it for them and pop it in a grade book, which is very much appreciated. We also have used forms for pre and post assessments. So particularly given the year that we've had in 2020 and the year that started now, knowing how much the children know and how much they really understand is really important. And if we've done some teaching for 2 or 3 weeks on a particular aspect, it's really useful then to repeat it perhaps, or something similar, to find how much progress they've made and how much they've learned. So accessing forms is very easy. You log into your Office 365 account, or if you're in one of your, maybe your email or your OneDrive, you just click on the 3x3 array at the top, and all the apps will then be shown, and Forms is one with an F that is there. Once you click on it, you'll then be given a choice to either create a new quiz or to create a new form. They're basically both created in the same way. The only difference is with the quiz that you put in what the correct answer is. You can see here a couple of examples we've got there. So we use it for our staff surveys, Our pupil leaders use it for staff surveys. We use it for our parent surveys. We also got here permission to watch the Rotten Romans. We needed to get permission from the parents for this. And again, rather than sending a paper copy home and having to chase it, we created the form, sent a link via email, texted them to say it was there. And I think we had basically all the responses back within about an hour and a half. So much quicker, much easier for parents, but also much quicker and easier for us. So here's another couple of examples. On the left, you've got an example there from Year R. So they've been, during this half term, been looking at the book called Oi Frog. And then what the teachers have done is set up a rhyming quiz. Clearly, this is something that they're being supported with an adult at home, but it's something that they've enjoyed being able to log in, again, on any device because it's in the cloud, and to answer those questions. So that's one that the children are doing at home. The example on the right is a Year 6 decimals pre-assessment, as it says at the top. And this is one where it was actually done in school. So this is from the autumn term. So the children were given the laptops for the lesson. They then completed the pre-assessment. And the bonus was obviously, as I said, it meant that it was marked for the teacher. They didn't have to do that themselves. So how do you create a form? Well, there are two main tabs when you go in. There's the questions where you're planning it and the responses where you look at how people have responded. It's very straightforward. You add a title, you add any description or instructions for the children, and then the main choices are a multiple choice question, a text question, a rating, so maybe out of 5 or maybe out of 7, and you can also get them to add a date if it's perhaps a history quiz or if it's a date when they've completed the quiz or form. However, if you click on the drop down arrow, there are some more choices so they can rank things, put them in order. A like it is a posh word for a table. They can upload a file as part of it, and a net promoter score, and you'll see one of these in our survey for today's session, is that it's basically a grid from 0 to 10 and you click on which one you want. Now, some surveys that we do with the children are generally quite short, but for my staff surveys, I like to really dig deep. So it might be that there's more than 3 or 4 questions. If you've got a long survey, one thing you can do is break it into sections to make it easy for the people as they're completing it. So here's an example of me creating a quiz. Again, I was really pushing myself at this point. You type in the question there. This is obviously a multiple choice. So you put in the different possible answers and then you click the one that is correct. You've also got the option, there is a little chat symbol there, to add a message so that if they get this, you can say, well done. To be honest, we don't generally do that. We generally say that at the end. You can add more options if you want. You can add points. And again, what's great about forms is it's intuitive. So if for the first question, you make it a 1-point question, when you do the next question, it will automatically assume you want it a 1-point question unless you change it. What I've done for this one is I've taken out the option for multiple answers. I don't want the children ticking absolutely everything, knowing that they'll get it right eventually. And I've also said it's required, so they can't skip on to the next one until they've done this question. You can change the way that your form looks. So you can preview it and you can change the theme using these two here. When you preview, you can either see how it will look on a laptop or desktop or how it will look on a phone. So again, it's on the cloud, it can be accessed on any device. In terms of themes, you can just go for a color. You can use one of the themes that Microsoft have already put in there, or you can upload your own, as we did when we sent out the form for you to sign up for this event. There's the share button next to it, which I will come to in a minute, but also in the 3 dots, as Henry mentioned, 3 dots really are magic in Teams and in Microsoft because they give you all the other options. If you click on the 3 dots, it then takes you into your settings. So in the settings, you can, if you want, say, actually, I want the children, when they complete this quiz, to see what answers they've got. Because then if they've got something wrong, it gives them a chance to have another go. So actually, they're getting that feedback automatically rather than handing it into me saying, actually, no, you got that one wrong, go and have another go. So it speeds it up. They get that response quickly. However, if it was a pre-assessment, you might not want them to do that. Otherwise, they might all score particularly well. You can set it so that anyone can respond, which is what we do with a parent survey, or it might be only people in the organisation or specific people. You can also then set a start date, an end date. You could shuffle the questions if you want to. So if it was a mental arithmetic quiz that you're doing in class and you didn't want the children going, what did you put for number 7? I put this. You can shuffle the questions so it makes it harder for them. They have to be much more innovative to find out how to get round that problem. And you can also add in a custom thank you message. We don't generally ask for an email notification for each response because it could clog up your emails, but it depends how many people you're sending it to and what the purpose is. When it comes to sharing, you can select that anybody can respond, or just people in your organisation or specific people. You can then either just copy a link, or you can get a QR code, or you can embed a form. So one of the things, for example, our year sixers, they've been creating a sway as part of the end of their learning quest on crime and punishment. And a group of children in year 6 have got together and created a form, a quiz, so that when parents are reading the sway, at the end of it, they've got a chance for a bit of interaction. And so they've embedded this quiz form into the sway. I know that because they sent it to me to test me earlier this week. I didn't get 100%, but they were very kind.
And neither did I.
Oh, well, there we go. What you've also got is an opportunity to get a link to duplicate it. So if it's a test that you're going to do, a quiz you're going to do every week, you can duplicate it and just change the questions rather than having to start from scratch. And you can also collaborate. So if you work in a year team with 3 or 4 staff, you might want to work on this quiz or this form together. Again, here's some examples. Both of these are actually from year 4. So this is Henry's class. They've been doing a learning quest called Extreme Earth, and Joseph created a natural disaster quiz to share with the other children in the class and with families at home. And if you remember back to the first half, I mentioned a post about a year 4 investigation into numbers of teeth that they sent to year 5 and 6. Well, this is that form that got sent to year 5 and 6. When you get the responses, so remember earlier I said you design the form using the questions here, and then you click on the responses. And what it will do is tell you how many people have responded, the average time it's taken them, whether the form is still active or not. And you can see the responses in very easy to see graphical form. So you've got these lovely pie charts here. But what you can also do is you can click view results and look at the results for every individual, which is obviously what we did to get your email addresses to send you the invite. You can also, which is really useful in terms of from a teaching point of view, if you've got scores from quizzes, you can open it in an Excel document, and then you can change how that looks and use it as an electronic mark book. And I'm now going to hand over to Henry, and he's going to do a demo.
So, as you can see here, we have got Microsoft Forms. And as you can see, by clicking the 9 circles at the top, you can access Forms here, which loads this tab just up here. So we have the option to either create a new quiz or a new form. As I shared in the chat, the massive bonus of creating a quiz is that it self-marks itself. So to give you an example of that and to see the power of that, so this is an example of a times table test that I set currently at the moment for my children. So as you can see, here are all the different questions. I've included the correct answer, which obviously there is only one correct answer here. But if I click on the responses, you will see it then collates the responses that I have got. And for example, this one here, you can see that there are a number of different responses that children replied, and I can see how many children. You can see obviously 5% or one of them got the wrong answer. And if I was to review answers, I can then review by child, but also I can review by question. So I actually shared a question, shared a quiz with them all about factors. And one of the questions was, what are the factors of 24? And obviously it depends on how the child works it out as to what numbers they type in. So obviously we know the different factors of 24, but they could type in 1, 24, 2 and 12, but they may start with 2 and 12. Now, if my response to my correct answer is in the most logical way, then you will see that it comes at, you will see the answers below, all the different option of the answers that I get. So for example, if actually 8 times 9 was actually 48, but they've actually, and that option was asked, I can change it. And for everyone that has answered that question, where I can, that way, will get 1 point. So I can instantly change that. I can go through all the questions. So that's a really powerful tool with that, and it obviously saves really quick marking. I can then, it will then give that feedback to all of them. So I can create a new quiz. And if, for example, you didn't have children that had access to Office 365 accounts, so currently our Year R's don't, I always recommend that for a quiz, we set it as the first question is actually their name, and that they that you don't give it any points. So then they can so then you know the child that it is. So you can type in your title of the quiz. You can also add in a picture. Something that's really useful as a factor of school is that when you search an image, it then gives you the option that it will search images that are Creative Commons license. You do not want to necessarily get in trouble with copyright. It costs lots of money. So that's particularly with that. So I can insert an image. I can add the title, add the description, and I've done my first question, and maybe I want to make it as what, make it as name, and I'm going to do it as no points. So then my next question, I can make it as a choice. Obviously for the lower down, for the Year R children, Year 1, Year 2, we have included options, and it may be that there could be multiple answers. And if I click multiple answers, you will see now that it gives me the option to tick more than one option. And you'll see there that actually when I clicked multiple answers, the box here on the left changes that shows that it's multiple answers. If, for example, there's a question that is quite similar, I can then copy the question and it will give me the same question again. I can just tweak this question if it doesn't quite match the responses that I want. When a child completes a quiz, particularly if it's shared and they don't log in with their Office 365 account, they have the option that once they complete it, it gives them the option to view answers or review response. So then they can look through the answers and it gives them straight away a marking of which ones they got right and which ones that they got wrong. And it's been a really huge, powerful tool for me during lockdown. Just to share you the example of the factors, as you can see, there are lots of, one recommendation I would definitely have is making sure that you have, there is a search function, but ensuring that you have the same theme for different ones. So for example, I try that for all my math ones that I have them in blue, so then they're really easy to pick out and tell. So as you can see, this was my factor pairs one that I was talking about. And as you can see here, we've got a calculation, and to show you the question, it was a question that showed an array of 1 times 18, or 18 times 1. And as you can see, there are quite a lot of different ways in which they have responded. Now, the way in which I got them to answer, or I wanted the answer, was 1 times 18 equals 18. So if I go to my review answers and I go to the question, you will see here all of the different ways in which people responded. So I can easily go through and I can see, oh, 3 times 16 is marked wrong. I'm going to keep that as wrong because that array, it wasn't showing that array. 5 times 4, I don't know what planet they're on. I'm going to still keep that as 0. But for these ones here, where someone's actually written 1 times 18, which is almost pretty much the same as my answer that I wrote, but it's just they haven't included the spaces, I can change that to a 1. And every time, so as we can see here, we got 3 responses, it changes it there. So it's a really useful tool. When you share it, you can share it as a QR code. So if you've got smaller children, obviously you can straight away get them on iPad. There are lots of QR code apps, and actually with the latest iOS, you can just scan it from a camera, go up to it, and then scan it as my phone goes into the oblivion of my background. And they can straight away answer the form on there. There was a question regarding like a template for forms. There isn't necessarily a template within Microsoft Forms, but particularly if you had a colleague that had done a form that you thought, oh, I could implement or use some of those ideas, you can get a link and they can share a link to duplicate it, and that shares it into your, you can then, it creates it into your area, and then you can edit it. So there are obviously benefits as to using both. With a form and a quiz, but it's been a really powerful tool and has saved a lot of time and a lot of work. You invest the time to create them, but then actually once they're created, then actually they can be reused years on years or slightly tweaked to the class that you need tweaking to. So this is your time to have a go, to try using a form. And then we will continue on to the last section. And as I can just see, Tim has posted in the chat about the feedback form, which is an example of a form. And very usefully, one thing related to that is that when you create a form, it gives you a little hint on the side as to how many minutes it takes to complete the form. So for example, the form that we sent out for you to sign up to this event, I think it said about 5 minutes to complete the form. Obviously anything possibly like the staff surveys that Tim creates could be half an hour, 40 minutes, but obviously he doesn't ever share that. So we wouldn't ever know how long it takes until we start.
Just point out that's the slimmed down version as well. Okay, we're aware of the time, and while we're trying not to rush people in the time to try, we're also fairly convinced that at the end of a long day, people definitely don't want to be here after 6. And I've also got a governor's meeting at 6, so I've definitely got to be finished by then. So if it's okay with everybody, we're going to move on to looking at Sway. So this is the final app that we've got within Office 365 that we're looking at today. And we're actually using a Sway to demonstrate it. It seemed to make more sense rather than PowerPoint slides. So what you're hopefully seeing on your screen now, and what hopefully is going to scroll for me. No, I'm going to share my, it's all right, Mr. P, I'll share my screen.
No problem, I'll stop sharing mine.
That okay, Mr. P, see that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Marvellous. So, introduction to Sway. Basically, what is it? Well, it's a digital storytelling app. That doesn't just mean you might use it in English, because actually it's a really good way of explaining processes, perhaps in science, or talking through timelines in history. So a really good way. Some people also use it in terms of actually presenting to their class. So it's a digital storytelling app. It's free and online. And as with the notebooks we mentioned earlier, you can add text, you can add pictures, you can add videos, you can add links. And again, you can do this individually, or you can collaborate. So I mentioned earlier about the Year 6s working on a Sway this week for their Learning Quest. So they're in groups so that 10 of them at a time can collaborate and put this Sway together as a team. I'm going to jump over this bit about the trainers because I think you know who Henry and I are now. This is just a separate bit that we use for separate training for some staff. Hopefully you saw the link to our YouTube channel on the welcome email. So I'm not going to play this video now, but it's there if you want to look at it along with many others. So how do you get started with Sway? Well, strangely enough, you log into Office 365 and then you will scroll down and click on the 3 dots, the 3x3 array, sorry, and you will have all the apps come up. And this time we are looking at Sway. So once you click on the app, you will get this screen, and you can create a Sway, either creating something from new, or you can start from a topic. This is really powerful in that, let's say Romans, you could type Romans into the search. It will then draw a whole range of different things from Wikipedia and put together a draft Sway for you, which you can then go and edit. The other way you can do it is actually starting from a document. Just as an example from today, our Senko has to produce a document for parents every year. Normally it's about a 20-page Word document. And so what she's decided to do this year is to put it in a Sway so she can break it up, add more pictures, add more links, and make it more interactive. The bonus was she just clicked start from a document and it transformed her entire Word document into a Sway for her. Most of it ended up looking the way she wants it to, and she's just then had to tweak a few bits. So there's really quick ways of creating something that's very smooth and very interactive, as long as I scroll slowly. So if you go for creating a new blank Sway, you can do it blank, or again, there's a whole range of different templates. So again, lots of things there to help you. Once you're in Sway, there are 2 main tabs, again, a bit like with forms. In this case, we've got storyline and design. The storyline is where you will build your story by adding in boxes or cards to create that story, that narrative. And then the design is when you focus on what it actually looks like. So the example we've got here, there's a title card. You give your Sway a title. Sounds fairly obvious, and it's written right there in front of me. You can then click on the green or the white cross, the white add sign on the green circle to add new boxes, new cards. And there's a range that you can add. So what you'll find is there's text, media, and group are the 3 main groups, but you will also get a suggested of the ones that are used most commonly. What we've got here though, and I'm just going to click on that, what we've got here first of all is the text. So you've got heading 1, heading 2, which is a subheading, or just general text. And you'll notice here I'm clicking through these. So when it comes to media, you could add an image, add a picture, you could add a video, you can add an audio file, but you can also embed those. So if you embed them, they will play directly within the Sway without the person watching it having to leave the Sway. You can also upload documents. Now, what I've got here are 3 images, but what I'm doing with them, if I click again, is I've arranged them in a stack, which is this option here in the group, which is quite nice and interactive. The kids generally like it because you can scan through and that stack of photos. You could, although, you could put them automatically, you could put them in a grid. Another way, if you're looking at 2 pictures, sometimes perhaps in history you're looking at 2 portraits of someone famous and you want to compare them, putting the 2 pictures next to each other is a really clear and visual way of doing that. The other option is that you can do it as a slideshow, so that actually they can go through the pictures as though it was a PowerPoint. The other bonus in a Sway is this little icon here. If I was to click on it, it would just make that full screen, which means that you can put pictures in quite small because people can minimize and maximize them as they go through your Sway. When you want to add a media file, there's a range of sources you can use. So when you click on it, you have this window opening up here. You can either search online and it will suggest various images or clips for you to add, or you can go into your OneDrive or Flickr, Bing, Picit, YouTube, or you can upload from your own device. So if you've got pictures, if you've got videos and other files that you want to use, you can upload them directly from your computer. So that's how you create your storyline. We then get into developing your design. So when you want to look at the design, you can change the direction that your Sway goes. So this Sway is going vertically from top to bottom. You can change the fonts, you can change the colors, you can change the background themes. And you do that, I'm going to make this one larger, by clicking on design, and it comes up with this box here. So as I said, this Sway is being played vertically, but I could change it to horizontally. I could change it to slide so it plays like a PowerPoint. If I wanted to, I can customize, so I can change the colors and the fonts and the backgrounds to exactly what I want, or I could select from these pre-arranged styles here. If I do something and I go, I'm still not happy with that, I can click on Remix and it will just suggest things for me. Once you've got your design and you're happy with it, you can then look at playing your Sway to see how it would look for your audience. You can also then look at how you're going to share it. And a bit like we were looking at forms, you can share it with specific people, those people in your organisation or anyone with a link. And you can invite people to either view it or to edit it. So when we do our school newsletter each half term, I invite the staff to edit. I create it, but I leave them sections that they then just go in and do automatically. Previously, what we used to do is they would have to write a section on a Word document, email it to me, and I'd have to copy and paste it into a Word document, which we'd then have to email out and print out loads of copies. We don't do that anymore because Sways, being online, can be viewed on any device. And you can create a link, or you can get a visual link or an embed code. What we've then got is some examples. So the top left here is an Anglo-Saxon Sway. Don't worry, I won't take you through all 4 of these in detail, but just to give you an idea, this Sway that I'm scrolling through now, this is Henry's class. At the end of their learning quest, in groups, they were given one of the subheadings and they had to go and find the information, find the pictures, and then together, I think in about an hour, hour and a half, they created this really lovely Sway. The one top right here is our newsletter. So what we've got here, this I think was the one from September. So strangely enough, we were talking quite a lot about COVID and how we were going to do things. So we've added in a link. We've then added in pictures. We've added in a video file, a social story that they were able to watch, subheadings, different text groups, bullet points, more pictures. So again, you can really break it up. Here we've got another stack, lots of posters to do with growth mindset. What we've also done, bottom left, Henry produces an eSafety newsletter each term. This is the one from September 2020. And as you can see, it's got the links to all the previous ones. Links to other things, big posters, reminders about different things. I won't necessarily show you the fourth one because it's a lot of the same type of stuff. But as you can see, it's very easy to scroll through, looks professional, I hope you agree, and is very easy to do. So I'm now going to stop sharing and hopefully hand back control to Henry. You're muted, Mr. P.
As you can see, I've got Office Sway open through Office 365, and we have a number of options. New blank Sway, start from a document, as Tim explained with us. Fortunately, I found the Year 6 example, so I may be able to show that at the end. So I'm going to create a new blank Sway. The really great thing about it is that it creates that, and you don't have to worry about it fitting on mobile or tablet devices. So the way in which it creates it, it makes it easy to read on a variety of devices with that. So we can emphasize the text, we can accent it, we can add a link into it. Just like with the images before, when we search in an image, it searches an image within Creative Commons license. Another thing to so then you don't get big bills. And you can then, obviously, you have a number of options that you can do. You saw quite a few times a stack, which is a number of images with that. And then you can flick through the images. And you can, whether it's copying or pasting an image from a Word document, you can literally copy and paste it into it. And each heading, each section makes its own section, and really great about it is that you can constantly check what it looks like. So actually, when I spoke to the Senko today that she had done a Sway, she said, "Oh, Henry, I just kept going to play." And when you go to play, you see, as I've got nothing in there at the moment, you keep seeing what it will look like. You have the option that when you insert an image, so if I wanted, I'd really love to do a Sway about animals, particularly these two lions. So I've got my image here of the lions. And as you can see here, I've got 3 different options, gradually getting larger. So this means that it will be as a smaller image, and we have to the largest image. So just to show you, that's what it would look like it was a smaller. And if we had 1 or 2 of these, then it would possibly put them next to each other if it was smaller. Whereas if I put it as a larger image, you will see that there is a huge contrast. And currently, this Sway, as Tim was talking, currently goes horizontally instead of vertically, which is obviously something I can change. Within the design, you have a range of different things. As you can see, you can change the way in which it scrolls. I don't know, I always prefer it vertical. I think that's possibly the OCD-ness in me. And then you have a number of options of how you can edit. So as you can see, I can clear. You can even, if you fancy a little bit of a risk, you can click remix, and it chooses one that it thinks that is best for what you have done. So it has chosen a custom style for me. Obviously, there's the magic undo button. And the storyline is really important because then you can go through and keep adding all of the different things that you need to add with it. And as Tim shared, you have the share link. You have a visual link as well. Take a look at my Sway, which could be added into an email message. Really great about it is that you can add a Sway into OneNote, so you can embed it into OneNote so the children can see. And here's a live example of one. This is top news because not even, I don't think probably all the Year 6s have seen it, and this will make the Year 6 teacher really proud. So this is a Sway example. So they've been doing about crime and punishment, and as you can see, they have done all of this information, great information. My goodness, wow, they've added to it. And as you can see, for some of them, they've added captions to it. which obviously describes a picture. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, I'm pretty sure, yes, as you can see here, they've added a section called quiz time. And if I was to click on that, it would give me a former quiz at the end. I'm not going to do that quiz because I didn't get many last time. So as you can see, they've added in different pictures. We could add in videos. There is a huge range of media that we can add into it, and it makes it look really professional in a really easy way. And particularly me not being necessarily the massively arty type of person, it gives that massive bonus with that. So this is your chance to try that.
Henry, sorry,
yes.
Just before people turn to try, I think the other thing that I would say with that example, it's a great one to share, the Year 6 one, is, again, if we think about the moment, you know, we're thinking about the children's learning, the children's well-being, and them not being connected, them not being connected to the school, them not having that chance to learn together. There's a really great example of actually how technology can overcome some of those barriers, because that's a brilliant piece of work that they produced literally in the last couple of days, summarising it. It's fabulous to see them collaborating and communicating together using Sway.
And
so
actually, the Year 6 teacher said to me, they were actually really thinking about, because I think it's in chronological order or some particular order, and they've really been thinking about it and where they put their piece of work. So it gives that ownership and their challenge with that.
So time for you to have a try. If you've got any questions, please do pop them in the chat.
Just a question I realised on sharing a Sway and putting it into OneNote. So this is an example of a OneNote with my children. So I've copied the sharing link, which is under share. And then if I just paste the sharing link, you will see the link will appear and then the Sway will appear below it and the children are able to see the Sway. Obviously, it's nothing linked to their maths, so I'm going to delete it so it doesn't confuse them tomorrow when they see that. If anyone has any questions at all and feels brave enough to put their hand up or anything, feel free, because I have unmuted or allowed you to unmute. And just to share in the chat also, the form for our feedback, which would be very much appreciated. I think the time it said was 7 minutes, and that's 7 not head teacher minutes, Tim.
Good, because otherwise, whew, it'll take you all weekend. So as we haven't got a lot of questions, it would seem, coming in, just wanted to point out a few things before we finish. Firstly, the Microsoft Educator Centre, a really fabulous free resource, hundreds of courses, loads of training pathways, really worth looking at the courses and the learning pathways there. Second thing to say is thank you very much all the people who've already filled in the feedback form. If you haven't, and we know what it's like coming to the end of the course, think, oh, can I sneak out the room without doing it? Well, look, it's really not that long. It's really, really short. It won't take you long, but it'll be really helpful for us. The other thing is we have put it in the chat, but we'll also make sure we share it by email over the next couple of days. We've got this great takeaway resource. It's a Wakelet. And basically there's loads and loads of links to do with Teams, to do with OneNote, Forms, Sway, and then at the bottom there's some bonuses. Just maybe if you're thinking about how you might develop your journey, we've got some suggestions there, a link to the MEC, and a couple of other really useful links from Microsoft. I'm now going to stop sharing, Mr. P. So thank you very much for all the lovely comments in the chat. Really very much appreciated. I have to say we've been very excited and keen to share because it's just been really exciting for us over the last 12 months. If there's anything in particular that you found really useful, please do either share it in the chat, please do share it on Twitter, and definitely if you're feeling positive, complete that feedback form for us. Please remember, you do have our email addresses. You've got our Twitter handles on the screen there. So please, if you've got questions still, or if you've got doing exciting things and you think, I bet Henry and Tim would like to hear about that, I bet we would as well. So please do reach out. Please do stay connected with us. And we both of you wish you absolutely all the best for you, your teams and your children during this continuing tricky period. Thank you so much for joining us and all the best.
if there's anyone still here that would like to ask a question, feel free to ask that question.
Henry, there's a question from Kirsty about inserting a document into OneNote for children to work. Do you set picture as background?
Yes, absolutely. I actually set a picture as a background because then it is easier for formatting purposes. Then the pictures don't go all over the place. I soon learned that I made a mistake today and I didn't set it as a background, and I had lots of children saying, my work's all messed up. So yes, setting as a background is a vital thing to do, and you can do that in the OneNote Windows 10 app. As before, if there's anyone that's got a question that would like to unmute,